And in your life, how would you say, how has not the notion of spiritual knowledge, but the experience of, how has it evolved in you? How have you changed?
Well, something in me from really as far back as I can recall, certainly from the age of 12 onwards, even in my notebooks or my ancient diaries, which I sometimes read, I'm surprised I have same questions at that time as I have now, 75 years later or 70 years later. I was always puzzled by what forces have created me and why am I here? Or one would say, what am I? Or people often say, how am I? I often tend to think, or who am I, they say. I say, what am I? Am I just this body? Or am I just the mind? So these questions have actually engaged me for a long time. But growing up in India, especially immediately after independence, which was in 1947, I finished my school in 54, so that's very few years after independence. Very strong pressure that if you are a smart student, you should go into technology. In fact, at that time, if anybody went to study philosophy or literature, that meant they were bad students. So whether I wanted to study technology or not, it was just a social pressure. So this is how I ended up there. But for me personally, wish to know something about myself, what I am, what forces have created me, which is really almost the basis of any spiritual search. That has been there very much from very early in my life, as far as I can recall. And then thinking that studying, getting great education, etc., would help. And people are always very surprised by this. I have Master of Technology, Master of Physics, Master of Philosophy, and a PhD in physics. Then later on, postdoctoral fellowship in physics, and in philosophy, and in religion. And I taught courses. But academic work, I was never against it, but it never really satisfied me very much. I happen to be fairly good at it. I have published many papers, etc., etc. But increasingly convinced that academic world or my academic knowledge is not going to lead me to really experience what I would call a spiritual experience. On the other hand, encountering yoga, I studied, people may be surprised by this, I used to actually teach yoga asanas in 1967 in the university. And somebody has actually published this in a yoga journal, why I quit teaching. I should maybe mention this to you because this is also part of my character. On one occasion, Shavasana, at the end of the asanas, there were about 25 participants there. Probably about 20 of them, or maybe 15 of them, nice young girls in the university, about age approximately 20 or 21. I'm the only one standing up. They're all lying down, Shavasana. Since I'm the teacher, I'm standing up, telling them to lie this way or that way. Suddenly, something in me very powerfully said, you know, I could seduce any of these girls. But then also something deep down in me said that unless I can be free of that kind of motivation, I should not teach yoga. So that was the last day I taught yoga. In fact, this was published in an article, somebody interviewed me and they were surprised because many yoga teachers, as you know, some of them get fined for sexual this or that. But these forces are very strong. Why? I mean, sexual force, you and I won't exist here without somebody having had sex. Yeah. So in a way, there is no reason to be against sexual forces, but to find their appropriate place. And I was so struck there by this strong impulse in me that I could seduce any of these girls there. But then where did some other aspect also came very strongly that until I can be free of this, I should not teach yoga.